Yo, how's it going, YouTube? I'm back in the video, and today I'm going to be talking about why I think the New York Knicks could be getting a little bit desperate right now, and why I think they're doing some moves that might be a little questionable for them in the long run, and really looking into the future for this team. And I'll be giving the reasons why I think they're getting desperate, and I'm going to be into a few other things as well in this video. So if that does sound interesting, please stick around and watch the whole thing through. If you do like video point, hit the like button and subscribe button. I mean the absolute world to me. And without further ado, without rambling on too much, let's get right into this video. Okay, so the first thing I want to get into this video is going to be their recent regression, and that's what I think is the biggest reason for why they are getting so desperate. And I want to go into why I think their regression is so bad, because they're not just regressing from one standpoint, they're kind of regressing from multiple key standpoints for a successful team, and that is never a good thing to be going backwards instead of forwards, obviously. And the reason I think they're going backwards is because if you look at it, in the 2020 through 2021 NBA season, they finished with a record of 41-31 and 4th in the Eastern Conference, and they were able to make the playoffs. Now, they did get bounced in the first round by the Atlanta Hawks, but the Atlanta Hawks caught fire in the playoffs. They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals where they lost, but still, the Atlanta Hawks were a very good team, and they did get bounced in the first round, but it looked like the future was bright for the Knicks. But things would turn very drastically as they went from the third best defense in the entire league in 2021 and with 10 wins above 500 in 2021 to going to 2022 and only finishing with a record of 37-45. And although not a bad defense, still not as good of a defense as it was the year before, as they were a top 5 defense the year before, and again going here they weren't even in the top 10. So I think for sure you could see vivid regression from this team, which is pretty concerning because they pretty much ran back the exact same roster. They just added a few pieces. They added Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker. Now, the Kemba Walker signing was a disaster for the New York Knicks. It did not work out at all. Pretty much for the entire second half of the season, he didn't even get playing time. He pretty much completely fell off. He fell out of the rotation, and it just blew up in their face. He's getting paid 2 years, $17 million, and they're paying him to come off their bench, or not even coming off their bench really at this point. They're just paying him to do absolutely nothing. So that the signing has absolutely blown up in their face. And then the Evan Fournier signing as well has not worked out as good as they wanted to, as Evan Fournier has also even took a little bit of a step back on both ends of the ball, and he has not looked like himself that he was in the Orlando Magic. So really, both those signings have really just not worked out at all. And to make things even worse, Julius Randle, who they just signed to a ginormous contract on an extension, I think it was 4 years, $117 million, he as well regressed quite a bit. As Julius Randle went from an All-NBA first-team level player the year before into going into the next season where he didn't make any All-NBA teams, his team didn't make the playoffs, and he averaged less points per game, less assists per game, less rebounds per game, and they were on worse efficiencies. These are huge points of concern if you're a New York Knicks fan or someone in the New York Knicks front office, because when you run it back with the exact same lineup and you add different pieces that you expect to make your team even better, you would expect your team to get better. But for your exact same core team with just a few additions to get that much worse, that is very, very concerning. Going from the 4th seed to not even making the playoffs, it could be a huge concern, because usually if you stick with a core, it's because you believe in the future and the future development of it. But with it showing right now, it does not look like the future development is as high as once thought, and that is showing as this year they did not look anywhere near what they did the year before. And maybe that year before was just a fluke, which could be a huge miscalculation if you're a Knicks fan, because the Knicks just invested so much into Kemba Walker, Julius Randle, and Evan Fournier that they have to work out, and it's not looking like they're going to work out. And if Julius Randle continues to regress or just not play up to the level of his contract, they're going to be overpaying him for a very long time. Hopefully RJ Barrett can keep developing. It looks like Kemba Walker's at the end of his career. Evan Fournier might be already regressing, and this team could be looking at a mediocrity for the next few years to come, assuming they don't get some superstar in the draft whenever they do select. So I think for sure that this regression is huge points of emphasis for the Knicks, and that is a possibility to why they could be getting a little bit desperate. And something else I think kind of shows that desperation that the Knicks are currently feeling is that they just signed Rick Brunson. Now, Rick Brunson is the father of Jalen Brunson, and they just brought him onto their coaching staff, and it's not a coincidence in my opinion that Jalen Brunson just so happens to be a free agent going into this free agency class. And after the playoffs that he just had, I'm sure the Knicks would love to get their hands on him. Now, I don't think Brunson's going to leave even with this, but I think if Brunson wasn't a free agent, I highly doubt this signing and this coaching hire even happens in the first place, and I think it kind of shows how desperate the Knicks could be getting, because they're becoming less and less of a free agency destination that people want to go to. Kevin Durant said it a few years ago, New York is just not a place that anyone really wants to go to at this point. They're not as big of a destination as a lot of people make them out to be, and it really is showing, because every year they're supposed to get players like Donovan Mitchell, Zach LaVine, all these other superstar level players that they're always rumored to have a chance of getting, and they almost never get those star level players, and it's mainly because, like I said, they're just not as big of a free agency destination as a lot of people think that they are, and them just being the New York Knicks is no longer enough to get those big name free agents in there, and without them being able to build a competent roster around Julius Randle or around any of their other potential star level players like RJ Barrett, it is going to be very hard to get any big names in there, and it's going to be that much harder to win games on a consistent level if they're going to try to go the route of these big free agency signings. Because even if you are a nice destination to go to and players want to live wherever your team is located, you still have to be winning games and at least have a competent roster. Because Brooklyn, although before they got Durant, Kyrie, and all of them, they were still a competent roster the few years before with D'Angelo Russell and all them, and they showed that the front office did have a chance to put together a winning team around their good level players. The New York Knicks have not shown that type of competence for a very long time. The Knicks have been one of the more incompetent front offices in the entire league for a few years at this point. They had one really good year, but outside of that, they haven't had another good year since then. So I think for sure that the New York Knicks have to show that they can be a competent front office and can put a winning team together before any big name free agents do sign with them, and that's why I think a big reason why they signed Rick Brunson, because they are desperate, knowing that they need someone like Jalen Brunson for this team to get that much better. But unfortunately, guys, that's my first video, so comment below, do you agree with me? Do you think that the New York Knicks are getting desperate? Do you think they're good? What do you think they need to do going forward to change and help them win more games? On your thoughts in the comment section below, and if you did like video, one point, hit like button, subscribe button, mean the absolute word to me, and I hope you have a blessed day, God bless day, so you have a blessed day, all glory to God, see you in the next video, goodbye, boo, blah, blah, blah.